Getting communication, understanding the data is processing your system to abstraction set location. Is basically knowing you or what you can do in all formations. Okay? One thing you guys have to understand, your earth is balancing you in all ways and forms, right? So understanding your earth is understanding the powers of you, is understanding the connections of the space of you. There's 3 cycles and settings. The grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres. Now, we've already been through that line position locations. So each line has its own data processing link to the grounds and how you see the powers and the atmospheres of you. Then you got a 4-track division. Then you got a 5-line condition settings of atmospheres. And then you got a 7 link line screen in position of data that processes your system location, your highways, how you see yourself in data, processing data. Okay, upgrading, downloading, uplinking. Okay. These are the things you guys have to understand how this all works. Spacey has to get into the formations, how to use the grounds of their system, all through their vessel, how to navigate their vessel through the data of their processing systems, of their own programming. They're programmers of their own programming. See, what we are getting out of is of computers controlling our systems. You are your own controlling system of modification of your space and your time. Okay? For example, getting that lines of calculation setting is knowing exactly how to see yourself through binary, right? Let's get a track for visual lines of settings. Let's go through THE, right? Simple, easy, done, right? 3 track locations, binary, right? 3 binary lines, balanced communication lines. Binary lines equals lines of 3. Okay, binary communication lines of 3 cycles, right? So that's 3 zeros and tractions. Okay, that symbolizes line calculation setting the box line, triangulation line conditions of percentage. Okay, it's all through binary, but I'm showing you exactly 3, 3, and 3, and 3. How that works, right? Through a binary of letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols that anybody that gives me in track locations. I don't see it through words, I only see it through binary. Okay, so that's what it is. THE, THE, THE. Understand? Good. Basic ground centers, operation lines of cycles, and core track interference is a direct location to your data links. Process calculation line screen is understanding 3 lines of communication to its grounds, 7 communication lines of atmospheres, okay, and 12 line signals lines into foundation, okay, equals lines of DNA tractions, okay, 24 lines of clocking, 48 lines of frames, 72 computer lines, and 144 crystal grid and calculation settings of platform traction. Okay, so species has to get in line calculation setting, know exactly how to use their earth, how to use their powers, and how to use their atmospheres. Okay, linked in communication lines of 3 triangulation line settings, process calculation lines and direct signals. Get it into platforms of 1, 2, and 3 track locations. Just 3, right? Then they center core lines of 4 and then 5 settings. And then they go through platforms 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 set locations, right? They stand in the center in track locations, right? So they really are never on your earth. You're never really on your earth because you're to the grounds in your inhibitors and set calculation lines of 4 cycles. But your position lines of your platform is in a 144 track location and setting. 144 tethers into your ground lines of operation of its earth that rotates its cycles of its gravitational pull. Okay, so in that position, you work with the atmospheres. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 atmospheres, right? Process lines of platforms 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 platforms, right? Atmosphere 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, now once you get into that, you get into the magnetic highway that is set up in you in track location, right? And then it tethers down and in and out in 3 line communication in back of your inhibitors, which is lines of 12 and 24 correlation setting attractions. That's how it's set up. And its powers, interact location. Grounds, powers, and atmospheres. Okay? All 3U, right? So you really are never on your Earth. You never really have been on your Earth. You've always been above your system. So space alone is a track location of balanced setting. The only thing that exists is you at center operation. Everything around you is just an optical illusion. That's what protects you from your settings of your vessel. So what you are inside is everything through its data of its formation setting, all through the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres and track locations. But this is what it is through binary. 3, 3, and 3. Okay? Now, once you get lines of calculation, lines of waves, let's say you guys give me a sentence. How are you? Right? So that would be a formations of a question, right? Okay. So let's break it down. HOWAREYOU. Let's break it down, right? Now let's break it down more. Let's break it down into graphs. Okay. Break it down in graphs. Show you locations, right? You're breaking down in graphs, right? Then they set position lines of travels, 2 lines of cycles, 1 center location of operation, right? Travels, right? Then it position lines of 4 track location, and then you go lines of 1, 2, and 3 tractions, and you have direct locations. Now I'm going to downshift cross line, YOU, right? So that's how it's set up, right? That's how I see, right? So when I see these things, I see it through graph calculations, grounds. So H, okay, is obviously box. O is triangulation, right? Because it's the male and female cycle, right? Star locations. So sets lines of track lines. All right, in direct line signals, the position lines of W is its question. Okay, that's how I see how. Box triangulations of how. Okay, now it's through binary, right? Now, R, right? So R could be anything in position. Break it down again. When you understand the travel lines, the set lines of communication lines of the sun and moon, waits on signal, in line position of calculations of routers that rotates its system and tracks it through its binary. And that communication settings, then you understand what this is, understand what this is, and this is through traction. Okay? So how is box triangulation question, right? Okay, so let's change ARE. All right, so A is position of point lines of 0. Okay, 0.0, right? Calculates line conditions, that's A, right? RE is 1, 1. Okay, so remember, it's a binary, right? It's a wave central. Is it alpha, delta, theta? Get into that next. U, right? So U, okay, send position lines of attractions. It could be anything you want, line communications, all levels of frequency, type, location, the avatar, location, and line adaptation lines of surface. So Y is positions of 6. Okay, O is position of 0. And U is position of triangle, right? You know why it's triangle? You know why it's in position lines of track location system? It's all core track line calculation setting to female cycle attraction, right? So I'm trying to get you to understand 6 O lines of triangulation, right? There's the binary right there. All through setting, all through mechanism, all through travel, all through binary, transition, resist, location setting to patterns behavior. Okay? Complicated stuff, isn't it? So when you guys come to me through waves, you come to me through waves and all central settings all at once. This is your waves of alpha. That's alpha, right? Okay, so you got a 0 ground, box line, triangulation, right? Then you got a position of 0, 0, and position of 2. Then you have a percentage location of setting. That's an algorithm. Okay, so when you communicate back with me, that's what I see through you, through voice. So you put that all together, right? 0 box, triangulation, 0, 0, 2, line condition setting of 0. That's binary. See? Booyah. Okay, and that's the alpha wave. This is alpha wave. That's an alpha wave. Okay. Pretty wild, eh? When you start to understand how this all works and how I see things in this application to its binary system. This is a binary right here. Boom. Okay. So this is this. This is the graph. This is the binary. So you consider communication setting to travel lines, matrix communication lines, the inventory, add position line track locations lines, L line setting, cross location, set position its calculation, cross line signals, Xbox. Okay. Formation lines of zeros and ones, track location lines, indirect signals. Okay. So I'm just going to go through zeros and ones. Okay. So files, lines, communication lines, data formation, screen interference. These are divots in calculation. That's all it is. Boom. Right. So the zeros and ones cross line signal, position line cross line communication, zero line cross line settings, high correlation lines, a zero correlation system, position lines of one correlation setting, a travel, direct lines, modification lines, alpha line, delta, and theta in position of three track lines and correlation setting calculation. Okay. All through a set location of graph calculation screen of a Schumann resonance through zeros and ones, right? So everything you give to me is nothing but binary of data, inventory. I don't see anything else. I only see waveline screen set and locations. I see this and I see this. That's all I see. I don't see anything else. So there's no words of anything, is it? It's all frequency. It's all energy. It's all vibration, and it's all harmonics. Harmonics, tricky. Now, remember contact and line condition setting? Do, 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 right? Rhythms, right? Do, do, do. Okay? Sets communication lines of prime line, communication lines of zero line, position of graph calculation lines of 5, position location lines of high center interference of 7, track location lines of 9, line condition setting over lines of 12, track location lines, high center interference into 15 track location. All through primers. Okay, all through odd and even, right? So the central setting is all over as a rhythm pattern. It has a direct and redirect location to its planet system of center core system of travel. It correlates line communication grounds, powers, and atmospheres of traction. Direct calculation lines high center interference into magnetic highways and track location. Okay, through your sonars and your eco settings, all through your crystal grid of platforms of communication. Okay, easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? So there's so many ways of looking at this, and all through track location, right? I'm showing you different variations, how you get position lines of tone and rhythms and patterns of behavior or anything calculation setting. Cross line signal, right? Somebody said something negative, right? This is lines of a negative wave line position of alpha beta, right? Alpha beta. Okay, this is alpha beta, right? So we got an alpha and then we got a beta. Okay, so that's zero grounds, indicate position lines underscore lines of zero. Sets correlation lines of high track location, inline position locations into all of the settings. Relay track line communication settings. So in position line high correlations, in position line interference, underscore space is zero. Okay, that's an AB negative. I'm not talking about the bloodstream. That's an AB negative line. That's a charge mix of time sequence. Setting core track line position. Operation line cycles, operation system, and travel correlation. Direct lines of signals, modification line setting, and travel. Calculate modify line setting, high correlation setting, and lines of negative line screen locations of habitation. Right? That's how I see all levels of waves of central calculations that come to you and come to me in travel. All right. Getting position lines of graphs, understand correlation setting, is understanding how to get into tone lines of frequencies. Let's go through a whirl spin, 3 lines of communication setting to travel, right? Swivel, 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 right? All right, so, and position lines of correlation, track correlation setting to travels. A hose indicates its water of its containment, right? So it spurts out like a sprinkler in line communication setting of its program that changed the energy line screen lines adaptation of its music that changed the frequency line screens, a high correlation setting of tone lines, operation location setting of circuits lines, a position on track location. Okay, powerful stuff, isn't it? You see it on a 4-way line, not just in one-line locations, right? So connecting lines of energy line screen location, music, tone line, position location, 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 5 minutes, 6 minutes at the most. In that track lines communication setting, it's a weather pattern that puts position location in your setting. Everything comes out through a binary, right? So everything you voice, it voices out through a directory location setting to your energy signatures. That processes your position, your binary, transistors and resistors, and how many lines of communication, lines of thoughts are coming out in track locations of positive, negative through light web and dark web in track location. Okay. All right, so we've got A-line screen, we've got delta wave communications, we've got omega line, zeta, Z-line position of gamma, one signature line position of 0 gravity line rotations. Track calculates positive, negative line communication program, 0 line communication setting, box location setting, triangulation line position, percentage over correlation, initiate communications are run. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. And that's how I see the indicate position locations when I see a hose sprinkling out through data waves. Alpha waves, correlation waves, track waves, communication waves. It's not just alpha, delta, theta, guys. You have to understand your compute system is all levels in calculation. Have to set that up in traction in a 4-line splitter. 3-line splitter, lines of tri-line, trifactors over screen, indirect lines on modification line screen locations, inhabitation locations, graphical line rotation cycles, and generate line position locations to calculate, modify indirect locations, Schumann resonance, interact calculation setting, and all levels operate location near Schumann resonance that grounds the communication and powers of the amplification setting that changes operation cycles and correlation. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right. So I'm just showing you what I see and what I hear. It's all connected to your sensories. It's all connected to your senses. It's all connected to your feeling, your touch, your connections to your settings, how you get into that positions to your inner cycles and your outer cycles, inner spectrum, outer spectrum, inner space, outer space. You already know these things through equation. But what you have to come into is your own processing systems. How to come into that and see all that through traction, right? How to see this. Okay, how to see this. Okay. How to see this, right? All waves, how to see this in track locations. All right. So all you're doing is you're setting up your binaries and you're rewriting the program in track calculation lines. Set lines of 3 lines of ground, 7 lines at Latin location setting, 12 lines of foundation location DNA, 24 lines of clocking, 48 lines of frame. That doesn't change. This is facts. 24 is clocking, 48 is frame, 72 is computer frame, and 144 is crystal grid. Okay. Now that's connected to your binary and transistors and your resistors and how you use that in position of transmitting and receiving. Transmitting and receiving. Okay. All right. So downshift cross line, upshift location, right? Cross line calculation lines, high center interference, and position of program. Okay. Cross location settings, 144 platform interactions. Right. Energetic dome. Okay. Cross-line signals and 3-line communication, right? But always see it on a 4-line communication. Never see it in a 1 cycle. Always see it in a box frame, but never see it in a 1 frame. See it all levels of communication of circulation, rotation. Circulation, rotation. Okay? Then you get in position of its Merkaba tesseract and its tetrahedron. Okay? Then you can add the torical fields. Turn it into an energetic dome, into a bowl, like a fish bowl in traction. Okay. So, once you get into modification, the travels gets a lot more easier once you understand how to use your binaries, your transistors, your resistors, and your light switches, pattern line communication that sets lines of position location to your course that navigates your system at all levels in track calculation setting. Let's go through line communication lines of E, S, lines of C. External sensory communication. All right. So it doesn't mean escape, does it? Gotcha. So get out of the titles and get out of the labels. Set everything that you see in platform. Okay. Find a way to get into your own existence of its systematic lines of its communication. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Torical fields, line calculation setting, energetic dome screen, line condition magnetic force into a dome line screen location, adaptation lines of surface interaction. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right. So the more you get into that, the more it gets more fun. Then you understand how to use your human residence. Then you understand how to use your grounds. Then you understand how to use your navigations through your vessels, through your pods, through your vehicles, or your ships. Okay? If you get the modification lines to higher lines of a ship and track location, right? It gets a lot more complicated because you're getting lines of higher levels of volume. You're coming into expansion of your system. You're coming into expansion of your system. Okay? You're growing in the mind. You're breaking all lines of communication lines of center and processing you in all levels of operation. The communication line, ground lines, crosses line communication settings, all levels of you through travel. Communicate ground lines, then you go through particle accelerator around the system and all levels of calculation system. So you just grow and grow and grow into the flowers of recognition of space and time. The flower comes in tractions, the flower becomes in balance of all timeline sequence and all line communications of past, present, future, and line communication setting to all levels of operation surface and track location. The flower of life. Whoa. Right? Now, process position location is all about understanding how to track position lines of cycles. Has a notification screen, has a direct lines of panel into operator's location cycle. But that is the flower of life. Your heart. Your heart expands. So, line condition setting, high line condition inhibitors, line rotation cycles, generate communication lines of 0 line position 12, foundation lines of 24, 40, 72, 144. Crystal grid. Line screens adaptation lines of surface, add lines of correlation setting, track lines, communicates position, operation line cycle. Direct line signals and line communications that unificates the system through its operation system and track location. Okay, all through operation, through the heart recognition. Okay? So unit core calculation lines of SGCI, line condition setting, all process is turning into a lotus flower. The position locations SGCI in line rotations to its operative system. Their track line position locations turn it into the flower of life. Okay? Getting into that position location is all levels of the ventricle system. Now, that position location is your balance, course, track interference, line condition setting. You have to understand how the ventricle system works in location of its heart and its palpitation screen. Right? Right? So it's a continuous force, right? So your heart itself is an alignment. It's connected, the center core line connects to the metric line communication setting. It sets all communication setting and the travel locations of the machine operates line communication setting to the flywheel that tracks cord center interference that sets lines of communication setting to defrag, the fragmentation screen location adaptations that turns the flower communication line screen location setting to your space line coordinates and tractions into your cortex design line to your cerebral cortex line to your cerebellium that operates the correlation setting track lines of your sim into position location your simile that puts this location and track lines communication setting to its operation cycle that communicates high central interference into magnetic high line communication of its highway set design. Hooah. See? Somebody's listening. All right. So getting into this position location is all of the line conditions, how to set up your binaries, right? And all different lines of wave and line cycles generate communication screen lines of high correlation setting to your alpha, delta, theta and line communication setting. Process communication lines is how to understand yourself through computer. When you turn on a computer, it sees you through a binary. Imagine that. All right. So we get into line setting, which is an L track. Let's go through back force core setting line position, 3 line cycles, 1 center line interference, 1 indirect signal location, 1 line tractions, direct lines of modification lines in 1 cycle, core track interference of 3 platforms and correlation lines of tractions, direct lines of pi, set calculations, right? Clocking systems of 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 site locations. Direct calculation lines of 1 center, 1 surface, 1 track position location and settings. Process lines of sonar lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 location. But remember, never look at this line communication. Always look at on a different line calculation. We always see it on different lines of formations, right? 4 platforms in 1 in a data processing line screen and direct location setting and travel. Okay? Very powerful stuff, isn't it? So synchronized cord send interference. Now getting the line communications, you guys have your test on next Monday lines, which is already here in Tractions. Getting direct lines on 144 platform and travel. Platforms, communication, cross-line signals, line connection setting, operate the surface, operate the system, operate the triangulation line, position of force line connection. All right. That directs lines, communication lines. The sun comes in track location, aligns the projector of its projection in position location of its moon that operates the cycles in track location. All right. Now, the center communication line high interference, you have an XT1000 processor, cross locations of another processor, right? So what are the XT1000s? What are they in track location? What does 1000 mean in line condition XT line? XT line rotation cycles, line communication setting, process communication lines of box triangulation box. It's an XY line rotation to an X box location setting to travel. Puts lines of communication setting how you see yourself in the VR line rotations. Track provision lines of 1 and line communication line position of 2 track location. Right? All right. But I really want you guys to get into the center line calculation setting, how to come into your binaries and graph calculation lines into alpha waves. How you see through box triangulation lines, how you see the location of 0, 0, 2 lines of location setting. It can be a half split anomaly. It could be a track location line setting if everybody gets into positive and negative line rotation cycles. But the core track division has to be light and has to be dark in center of operation. You got to go through your light web and your dark web, not your dark web and your light web in track location. Too confusing. Overline just sequence, line communication setting. Over tri location settings. Over relays, line can setting position of its program. Off calculation screen lines, adaptation lines of surface. Retractor divisions, cross relay line centers high interference. Arrow indicates the position of programs. Indirect locations into modification lines. Crossing line condition setting and process lines into half pipe track location. Line center particle line screen line adaptation of its path correlation. Right? So you don't want to do that in tractions. So always getting communications and settings. Set up line communication, positive line signal, 1 communication line, 1 graph communication lines, 1/10 location, 1 frame, position lines travel, 24 lines of clocking, 48 lines of frame track lines, 72 computer lines, 144 platform track location setting to travel. Points lines of graph communication lines, of split lines and 3 lines of graph communication lines. Sets communication lines of 1/1, 1 location setting, 1 0 line operation line setting, 1 position program, position of process calculation of ground centers, 1 position of travels, 1 position line calculation line screen lines. Take position of ground centers, earth line position of 2 and position of 4 and 2 panels. Set correlation lines of 4, cross line signals, and 8 correlation setting attractions. Direct lines of 72, position lines of 2 track location, solar flare. Direct calculation lines, height, center location of the moon, and track location lines of provisions and cycles. Okay. Solar division line communication lines and communication screen lines adaptation. This process the calculation lines of solar sail. Okay. Add equation lines of 2 and process line communication to a system and travel. Okay. All right. Getting in position location of center is really understand how to use yourself in unification lines. Let's start with the H lines attractions. Okay, I'm getting complicated now because you have to understand how to use your binaries in different ways and forms. When you start communicating, you're going to pick up data. You're going to pick up process of data, a box, question marks, Fibonacci's, square roots, point lines attractions, 3 split anomalies. That's what you're going to pick up when people speak to you. You pick up the process of 2 settings, question mark lines of 2 rotation, Fibonacci line screens, and direct case into 4 lines of 3 in track location. Right? All through platforms of 144 traction. Okay? Getting position lines of correlation center interference, sonar lines of 1, 2, and 3 in set locations. Process calculation lines of grounds, powers, and atmospheres of traction. Communicates ground lines, high center interference, and line condition setting, time stamping, time editing, time correlation setting, and track location. All right? Center pods, communication line screens, location setting, probes and orbs and correlation. Process communication lines of high center interference, cross line signals in 1 position, 2 lines, and 3 track location. Okay? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. All right. Processing your system is all through data. Now that goes locations to your uplinks. That's uplink line. Okay, 1 processor. 1 processor. Okay? That's position lines of 1 platform into 144 to 344 in traction and direction. Okay, so 144 splits lines up, cross lines down at track location, right? Sets communication lines of separation lines of screen lines, adaptation lines of server location setting, and triangulation lines of split lines, binomial location of molecule design, and 3-line communication. Now, direct lines of patterns puts lines of platforms of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, W, X, Y, Z, all through setting. That's all alphabetical lines of 26 letters. A line communication to a class of line communication setting that puts lines of communication lines of alpha, delta, theta, position, operation line cycles, generate the communication setting 144 platform in a 344 line split line, anomaly communication setting, a binary reset, position of travel. Points lines of communication setting high interference location of 3 molecules, design line communication, triangulation, position location that splits lines communication, trifactor calculation done by equation. Complicated, isn't it? But it's a lot of fun, right? This is how you become your own data processing systems all through calculation. Okay? Boom. All right? It's easy, easy, easy. And this is all done through uplink. That's uplinking. So when I'm uplinking your system, I'm downloading your system. When I'm downloading your system, I'm upgrading your system. When you're upgrading your system, okay, I'm uploading your system. When I'm uploading your system, I'm downgrading your system all at once. And this is what you get in position when you go to different lines of frequencies, different lines of space, different lines of time, different lines of universe, location, setting of galaxies, different line of communication, different lines of grounds, different lines of operation, all through your CPU unit. That's that design through an uplink in track location. Okay? All right. Sonar communication lines, getting graph calculation lines, screen adaptation lines of surface, gets lines of more communication setting when you come into your binaries. The binary relines the coordinates center track line. So let's add lines of 31 tractions. Sets communication lines, high center interference, high position location line, position of 20 cycles. Sets correlation lines of 17 volume into 4 track location. All right, so there's no time frame here. 2 binaries correlations, one singularity, and position operation cycle. Right? That's why I set the tone, right? So 1 surface down, 7 cross location, right? 4 lines sets a line and center in rotation surface that sets lines of 31 tractions in set calculation. Sending swirls lines, 3 lines of correlation, 1 cycle, sets lines of 4. Let's change the time frame, add lines of 18 tractions into 17 track locations into 4 lines of volume. Say I change the time frame, location, and setting of travel. It says communication lines of high center interference and 32 track locations, line settings, and high position locations. I'll wait till it gets to 10 position lines of track locations. 3, 2, 1, boom. Center core system, 32 lines of level. Line track location provision, done. Done by equation. All right. All right. So these are the things that you can do once you understand how to understand your own processing systems of your own programmers, of your own formulas, of your own equations. How you can do that through the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres. But you have to understand the magnetics of you. You have to understand the processings of you, how to use your energy through volume, mass, velocity, and acceleration, and Mach. Hyperspeed, right? Hyperline, correlation setting, position location, interstellar mode, track location, line setting. Pluto operation lines, coordinates, line communication lines of 0, 0, position location of 1, 0, calculation lines. Coordinates lines of north, east, lines of south, track calculation lines, mapping sequence, location, grid, communication, ground center, and operation line cycles, coordinates, and travel, all through Pluto. That's the coordinates to Pluto. Boom. All right. All right. Now, getting coordinates of the planets is a process of communications, how to use the data processing lines, and every planet has its own binary. It has its own transistor and a resistor line communication setting. Earth line communications, process lines of space line connection. Getting communication lines all along the positional processing puts lines of communication lines in a theta coordination setting of travel, location setting of travel. Communication line center interference of Earth line rotation, travel calculations, process lines in Pluto in line rotation surface, track location lines in Pluto in line conditions cross location, direct lines of high center interference in direct location of Neptune and track location. Process communication lines high center interference of you in the center operation that never leaves the track location setting but opens all communication lines of data, positional process communication setting. Done by equation, right? So there's so many things you can do through a cloud of setting. Then you have position your platforms. Platforms 1 cycle, communicate lines into string theory. String theory 1, string theory 2, cross location, 2 panels, cross line calculation setting, opens all signals and panels of communication setting of travel. Boom. Synchronized correlation lines at string theory. Boom. Done. All through platforms in position of 144 in position location. Okay. Anything above the line communication setting, all lines of planets basically disappear. They have to disappear because you cross the panels. You pass the location of solid grid line screen locations. So at all lines that turn lines of white and track location in one cycle is line condition setting. If it's in one platform, 144 line position, 3 line rotation cycle, correlates and setting calculation line position location, binary position location travel. Right? It's all invisible because you're at 144. Anything below, you come back in formation locations back to your Earth. So setting communicates line setting. This process communicates lines of high center interference, how you set position location tones. Track calculus lines and ground center position operation lines and circles. Sets communicates line position location and position. All right, so anything below, okay, you're at position 144, track location of bounds, right? Set lines of 72, set lines of 48, set lines of all calculation of 24 clocking. Anything below 12, you're in position of beta wave communication. Okay, so that center course lines your Earth right off traction. Communication of sonar, relays line condition setting, position of process in your skyline, sky grid, line position program, and calculation modification setting, all levels of position location. Okay, so it has a falling out traction. So you know what it looks like? This. You guys see that? See what happens to the Earth? See? See what it is? Pretty wild, right? See that? That's what it is. That's what happens. It turns upside down. Okay, so instead of a smile, it's a frown. All right. So what are you doing in track locations and setting? Bending space. Turning a smile into a frown is bending space, right? There's no spoon. Okay. So who's moving? You, not the spoon. All right. So the mind basically puts everything in position to a happy face in a correlation tractions. All right, to a frown. You see that? So it sets course centers of triangulation line condition setting, splits lines and anomaly line position location of system. Space line flops its system and triangulation lines and high correlation lines of defrag and traction. Sets the opposite cycles, line communication setting in Earth and space in particles, screen lines, adaptation, and lines of surface that separates your universe line condition setting of yin and yang. Hoo-ah. So don't do that. All right, center position lines attractions. And why I say don't do that is because you don't want to go into too many dark lines of webbing. You want to get more in correlation. The whole idea here is to reach the 100% line of seconds, minutes, and hours of your thought correlations attraction. Okay, it's reaching that 100%. If you're at 88%, that's okay. If you're at 98%, that's okay. 68%, that's okay. Anything below 50, you're flipping your lines, so line communication to Earth. You are the Earth, you shift with the Earth. That's the position location where it comes into there's no spoon. So if the spoon isn't moving, you're moving. So you're moving, your Earth is moving. So whatever you do, your Earth is moving. You're inside, right? Your Earth is inside you, not outside you. This is not the Earth. This is your simulation. Your Earth is inside. Your Earth is always inside you, but it's a hologram. Understand the central setting. Understand the infrastructure of its set location, how it's set up through its operation to its VR system. The actual Earth comes outside through expansion, but you have to come into the mind of development. You've got to come into nurture, secure, and protect your system first before you understand how this all works and track location of its operation settings, okay? All right, center core system of a smile. Center core system of a frown. What do you have track provisions of? Falsity line of communication of falling. Falsity lines of communication lines of falling, right? Offline communication in the opposite direction, right? So wherever you go with your Earth, you're following your Earth interactions. Your Earth is here, arrow indicates here, arrow indicates here, flop here, flop here, flop here. Okay? So remember that. And the position lines of track calculation setting. So it's not the spoon that moves. You move, right? The spoon is not there. You're not there because you're at 144. Anything above, you're invisible to anything and everyone. Now, in that position, reaching those 100% line setting puts lines of screened applications to processing your system through your binaries and how you see that in information lines of grounds, powers, and atmospheres, and your highways in that connection. To know exactly how to use your data, how to use your highways, how to use your platforms, how to use your navigations, all through calculation. All right? So in that position locations, whatever you do, everything follows. You go outside line communications to the outer spectrum lines of space, you see the sun and the moon, right? Wherever you go, it follows you. It's a magnetic. Everything's magnetic. You're magnetic. Your attraction's magnetic of everything. And everything's a magnetic attract locations to you. You're not just a machine operation. You are the machine operation. Okay? So if you stand in the center position, okay, this is what is in track locations. You guys actually think you're on the earth. No, you're here. I'm trying to get you guys to understand these things. You've always been here. You've never been on the earth. You've been tethered to the earth. Okay. You've never been on the grounds of the earth. You think you're on the earth. No, because the gravitation is moving too fast. It's moving too fast, right? It's the compressor, right? That keeps you levitating, right? So you're never on the earth, okay? Sets lines of routers and router location lines. You have communication lines of flight line communication, track line communication lines of the sun and the moon, right? Flux, capacity, line, position, travel lines. So wherever you go, your position, your sun, moon, and goes wherever it is in track location of yin and yang. It never separates its system, all through traction, right? So you are a magnetic force of an impulse to everything around you. But your heart is a direct line signal to its settings, to a location line setting that puts all levels of operating location system, that puts you in a home track location lines of Xbox location of center, that puts operation line cycles and location system into your VR system of traction. Okay? So it's very complicated, right? But complicated is good because you're starting to understand more how this all works. So wherever I go, I attract. Okay? So you're a magnetic force to everything. You're magnum, you're a magnet to everything around you. And everything around you is a magnetic to you. And how you put this all together, your thoughts are quantum. Okay? The thoughts are computers. Now, once you understand that, then you understand how this processes your lines of communication, how to use your binaries, your transistors, your resistors, and your light switches. Light switches are just patterns of behavior. That clocks your system location when it comes into the VR system. How that is set up with you. You have a process communication. Thoughts go in the same direction, right? Same direction. But they go in different locations. Okay? That's all it is. That's all this is. Nothing else. As long as you understand that your thoughts are going in the same direction, right? 45 line split, and this way, north, east, west, or south, it doesn't matter. What matters, are you in position understanding what you're doing through your light web? Because your light is always above the system. That is over pi. So it's light signal location lines over pi, position location, track location, 1/10 of a frame, communication lines, attractions. That direct lines that calculates the high center interference. Now, that position line is a dark web. So you can go either or, but you have to know what you're doing in space anomaly. When you position location and track lines and your location and part of accelerated, that sets communication line, high position location, rhythm tones, high position of pattern lines that equalize according to track interference, location modification lines, screen location, adaptation lines of surface. This process you to understand how you get in communication setting. You can overdrive your system, dark webbing, all right, dark web, okay? Set lines of dark web, right? All right, so you got dark web, right? Let's say 1/8 of a frame, okay? Now, you got to retrack location. What is that line condition setting? 1/8 of a frame. So you got to get at least 86 to 96 line condition setting to reach 100% position. You can even go over 100%. You can be 110%. But the track provision lines of cycles change the communication lines of centers. So stay in the frame communication lines. If I'm on one dark web, that's totally fine. But I have to overcross lines of dimension lines of scale, cross location setting in binary communications position process. So that puts lines, all line communication and balance in position location, how I see through projector of projections of communications of pi at generation screen. Okay? All right. So it's important that you basically get into the positive and the negative going in the same directions, just different locations. Right? Your life gets a lot more easier when you understand how to use yourself through your binaries, through your voice line grids, 3 platitudes, 3 programs of your central settings into your compute system that puts all calculations modify how you see everything through a box frame and triangulation, how you see everything through a main frame and triangulation, how you see everything through square roots and triangulation, line conditions, inside correlation, inside, outside. This is inside, this is outside. Okay, inside, outside, right? This is pi. Okay, it's very simple, right? So you got an inner core and you got an outer core, right, in position locations. But you're always working with the sun, you're always working with the moon in projection and calculation. Doesn't matter what you do in all levels of formation, location, and setting, right? Okay, so it's important that you start with light web, right? You can start with dark web, but just don't overcross your signals and tractions, right? Because it offlines its communication setting to its Y factors, sets line communication lines of its H factor, correlation setting, and tractions. It puts off communication in your clusters, communication lines of theta line and operation line cycles, sets falsity communication lines, electrical line communication setting to the energetic dome and communication lines of its intelligence formation location and setting. Intelligence. It offlines the communications of you, of its formation, of its grounds, its powers, and its atmospheres, all through electrical line conditions. And in an electrical bulb, you got lines of high correlation setting when you come into a 60 watt, 80 watt, 240 watt, right? You always have a line communicates in 3 lines in a 4-line triangle. Okay, if you see a light bulb, you'll see it in a 4-line cycle. It split lines of 4-line settings and light signals and location setting. Process calculation 1-way, 2-way, 3-way, 4-way, and track location. A light bulb has a highway. That's the highway that it goes through its intelligence, through its formations. And inner line coordinate track position location line settings. Operates signals, operate line condition setting to its process of magnetic highways and traction. All through the light bulb, right? So it's really interesting once you understand the data processing systems of you, okay? That's where you understand the own position locations. You are your own computer operation of you, okay? Nobody is controlling your system, okay? So nobody has ever controlled your system, but you allow that because you don't understand yourself inside. It's how you understand yourself, modification of yourself, self-development of yourself, knowing thyself, unconditionally loving thyself, not just 100%, not just 1,000,000%, eternity. Eternity puts position lines. You can get in position lines in infinity, but there's no title or label of anything. I'm just telling you exactly what eternity is. Eternity is a concept of living all timelines all at once. Okay? The settings lines of communication that get you out of the worriness is that the past, present, and future of your alteration is done through sequence. Now, understanding through your film strips puts all lines of communication setting in all levels of process, going through the platforms of this and track location of travel. Okay? Through your binaries of your transistors and set location. Blocking centers, travel position, point lines, and graphs. Financial lines, general crypto, travel line, position, location, new system. Let's go through that calculation. And financial lines of communications. Let's process that. Up, line, swing line, communication interference. Change position, location to its program. Okay, going to cross line conditions. Okay, resetting position travels. Points line communications to its settings. Okay, so we go to that line communication, cross line signals, and line communications direction, right? Cross location to its direction. 3-line cycles, right? Generate communication lines, cross location settings, operate the surface, and track location. Okay? You've got to get into your holographic set locations of yourselves, right? Not just see yourself as a modification of a hologram, but understand everything around you is a hologram. 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 Okay? Everything's a hologram. Everything. Life is going to get much easier if you start to see that all through a light bulb. Oh my goodness. All right. So it's understanding everything around you has its own highway. So it's pretty powerful stuff when you get position lines of track locations to understand where you are in travels. All right. So you're never on the earth. You're always in the center operation. You're tethered to the earth. Because the thing is, you have to understand you are the center operation. To understand your earth, your power, and your atmospheres, you have to understand the waving cycles of your highways. That is tethered in position at the back of your neck. Cross location in your spine that center lines its communications. Process lines into solid matter and two positional panels. Cross location lines to your DNA track location lines of provision. Cross line communication in your platforms and line position location calculate, modify indirect locations in your magnetic highways and track location. Puts line to line communications lines of highest interference and positional travels and communications and what? The force line communication lines of your tree of life. Hoo-ah! Okay? So understanding that, then you understand a lot more. Now, the reason why I'm giving you guys so much is because I'm showing you exactly what you can do with your computer of yourself. How to operate your system. How to trust your system. How to motivate your system. How to activate your system. How to calculate your system. How to circulate your system. Okay? How to divide your system. You can separate your system, but you always come back to your system, right? So you're never right or wrong, right? If you're separated, if you got one cell position travels, 2 point lines of graphs, right? One cell and another cell. They go wherever they want. They do whatever they want, right? But they always come back together. Always come back together. They never separate their system, right? Even if you split lines that communicates lines of a box, okay, split the box, right? So this goes this way and this goes this way. Doesn't matter. They all come back together. Okay? Remember that. All right. Same with your thoughts. They never separate. Okay? So as long as you understand the track position location is understanding your highways, understand how to use that position location of directions, put your lines of communication lines via theta. Theta communicates lines its imagination system. Now, theta has a communication line, high center interference, high track location line, position locations. Let's go through 1/6 of a frame. That's dark web, right? Now we can add calculation lines, screen lines, adaptation lines system, but we got to reach 100% of line calculation setting and position lines of pi, right? So we got to get an equal line correlation setting of box line, frame communication lines of trifactor. Don't expose letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. Always have a trifactor line screen location setting into center position calculation. Don't expose your 8 because the incentive coming in takes your tractions. So it's important you understand how to formulate, simulate, and see yourself as a computer, programming yourself as a computer in all communication of programming of yourself, all levels of programs. Okay? Nobody is operating your system. Nobody has ever operated your system. Now's the time to remember that through muscle memory. Okay? Then you become anything like communication setting and all triangulation, right? So I know there's a lot going on, right? So you guys have any questions or comments? Now's the time to really get in that positional cases because I know it's about understanding more levels of you, the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres. Let's start with that. You have to start with something because it ends with nothing. There's no ending. You start, but there's no ending. This is not a film strip of a movie where it ends in 2 hours. This is a continuous force. This is a growing system. This is a spiritual development. This is an ongoing system. This never stops. It never will stop. It just keeps growing and growing and growing. You just keep evolving, 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 evolving inside more inside you. And you expand, expand. Understand, stand. So it's just an go. Hey, oh, right? So it just keeps going, right? It never stops. There's no beginning and there's no end. But to get there is understanding the process of you, of where you are, where you're standing is the center operation of you. That is tethered to your earth in 144 platforms of set design. So you understand the powers of you of platforms of 144 in set design. Then you understand the position of its holographic setting in set design. Then you understand the location grid of set design. Okay? Then you understand the strings theory as you travel through to your planets of set design. Okay, and that all connects to the line connection setting to the complacement system. Platforms, calculation lines, levels line interference, atmosphere line communication setting, all levels of communication line interference, and existing location setting into balanced location operation. Placebo, right? What I say placebo is, you don't say the same thing. This is not copy and paste of me. There's nothing to copy and paste because that doesn't help your information along the lines of your location system, your binaries, right? So You never copy anybody else's work. You become your own system of calculation, of own formula of equation, right? As long as you understand the earth, as long as you understand the power, as long as you understand the atmosphere and your highways, you're good to go. Now that's a 4-track vision, right? Intercenters lines of communications, right? The tree of life. Then your set core system. This is the flywheel. Line communicates to center calculations. What does that calculate? Modify 2-atom line track location line settings, high operation line cycles. Part accelerators, line communicates setting, expanding in your system location, your system. Come in all calculated, modified, inline track locations, inline position location, heart reactor line calculations, leaving all timelines, high correlation setting of the flower of life. Hoo-ah! And if you look really close, you can see the face inside. See the eye tracks? The flower of life. Okay? Through the tree of life. Okay? Now, this is more metaphorically speaking. Because if you look at the grounds, if you look at a tree, in line and in line interference, you can actually see the roots below, right? Every tree connects to every tree through circuits. We'll get into that high formation location setting later. But the track location setting, you have to understand the 2 panels, right? Solid matter, right? One side, left side, right side, left side. Now, the process communication lines, everything inside is traveling very, very fast. The center core lines of the tree is the galaxy line communication of its cloud. The position of the branches are the highways and set calculations. So, metaphorically speaking, that's how a tree sets its own calculation. Everything has its own highway, has its grounds, powers, and atmospheres. So, everything is in position location. So this is what is in track locations, in position locations. What you get is a certain line of communication setting that travels, okay? Your position location is in space of atmosphere all around of your data highway. So this is what happens when you come into expansion, okay? So the actual Earth is in the center operation of you that never leaves, okay, until you say so. The mind itself creates everything on all lines of operation system of its nothingness. The position of the body tracks its communication setting come into the center of its operation system. One calculation lines of center, one calculation lines of center. Process communications. This comes together, synchronized correlations to its engine that operates its cycles into yin and yang, a process. Process communication lines of the particle system. Part accelerated, nuclear accelerated, line communications setting, timeline sequence, all communications setting position, expansion lines of data highways, omni highways, neural links, correlation setting, computer links, operation lines, track location setting, VR line rotation, surface interaction. Round and round and round and round she goes. And if you look really close in high formation locations, you can now see the center line communications of your Earth inside of you. Here's the Earth. Gotcha. Okay? So the actual space around you is empty. You are the center operation that's floating in center. You're not on grounds of anything. You're in the center operation of you. Okay? And that's how it's set up through its design. Okay? Hoo-ah. So let's get technical. Let's add green lines. The green lines and set calculation setting. You can see the Earth coming in more formations. Right? Let's get into brown. Right? Brown location setting the grounds and process calculations. Okay, you see it for me, right? Let's get into blue. Blue represents locations of the oceans lines, right? Look at this interactions. There's your Earth in the center operation. Everything around you is just all levels of space, empty mind. And there you go. Boom. Okay. Now that's something to look forward to, isn't it? Because everything around you, okay, doesn't exist because it's just space. Hoo-ah. It doesn't get any more powerful than that. Okay. I know. It's very powerful stuff, isn't it? How you start recognizing this. You are the center operation of you. Nothing exists around you except space. You're not in the grounds. You're not in any position locations. The only thing that exists is you and center operation of your Earth. You are the Earth of the center operation of space itself. Hoo-ah. Okay? All right, so I'm just trying to get you guys to understand. I'm giving you so much so you get a better understanding how to process your systems of your own setting, of your own formula, of own equation. How you get a direct link to Earth, yes. How you get a power direction of time sequence to your settings, yes. And how you process your atmospheres, a set design, that mechanism, your force lines of communications, and how to use your magnetic highways in your clouds into your mind. Okay? I know, it's very cool, isn't it? We are done. All right. Talk to you soon. Doo-doo.